Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Deal Room Podcast. Join us as we bring you the inside scoop on business sales and acquisitions. Get across trends in the area and hear the industry's best recount their real-life tips, traps, and experiences. Now, here's your host, Joanna Oakey.
Hi, I'm Joanna Oakey, and welcome back to the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by commercial legal practice Aspect Legal. Now, today we're speaking with Matthew Newton, General Manager of Bonza Business Brokers, a brokerage that specialises in the Australian small business sector. To say we cover a lot of ground is an understatement. In this episode, part one of this two-part series, you'll hear about the inner workings of a business brokerage in this end of the market, how they work with small business clients, the emotional side of a deal, and the roadblocks for buyers and sellers that can arise during business sales. Without further ado, here we go with the Deal Room Podcast.
I just want to say a huge thank you for joining me here on the Deal Room Podcast.
Ah, welcome. Thank you. Excited.
Yeah. Do you know what? I am so excited. I was so excited and am excited about having this discussion with you for quite a few reasons. The first one is I think you guys are truly innovative in this sector. There's a lot of people that are truly innovative in this sector. And like you guys, I think A, truly innovative, and then B, smashing it. Like you're just doing such a good job. But the second thing is I feel like culturally and ideologically in terms of our approach, the approach of Bonza and the approach of Aspect Legal, we're so aligned.
100%.
There's just so many, I just think there's some gold in the concepts of the way you approach things. And as I say, I really feel like it, when we talk, it really resonates with me constantly that we are approaching this market in very similar ways, and also coming from the same value perspective. Like we're both driven, Bonza and Aspect, we're really driven by wanting to create understanding how important this space is for our buyers and sellers, and just really wanting to create products that fundamentally help move these deals along. So that's what I see, and that's what I'm so excited to dig into.
I guess I'll probably start with a statement like this. We specialize in that small business space where there's a lot of people in the industry that don't see value, but that's where we actually get not only excellent results, but it's where we get a lot of enjoyment out of, because in that small business space is where all the stories are. But that's where our vendors are going into retirement, or their mothers who have been moved to home for their first baby and set up e-commerce businesses. And the sad thing about it, a lot of them are either told or don't believe there's any value in their actual business that they've been building. And for us, being able to get inside that with them and uncover where the true value is and then put it on the market, it's literally everything about what we do.
Yeah. And it's true as well in the legal sphere, because like most lawyers who specialize in this space really are chasing the big deals. That's what lawyers in business sale and acquisitions, they really want the big deals because that's where the bucks are. And I really felt when we came into this market, it was an underserved market. And essentially the lawyers who were on it, put it to the side, don't put time and attention into it, because it's just not lucrative enough for them to be spending that time and attention on caring about picking up the phone and answering and working quickly. You know what I mean? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I can understand from their point of view. If you've got two workflows on your desk and one of them there is a $20 million deal that has 50 people yelling and screaming at you to get things done, or you've got one which just has your two vendors needing help, it's hard to draw your attention to them. But the funny thing is, it's those couples and those individual business owners across Australia, they're the ones that need the attention. And that's why we were created, to be honest with you, because it just like you, we saw a completely underserved market.
Yeah. And is Is there any sort of clients that pop into your mind when you're thinking of that? Like the client where you're like, you know what? That for me was that moment where I went home thinking, oh my God, I was just so happy to see that one done. What a great outcome that they got to the end and now they're off into retirement or whatever the case may be.
That's a tough question to answer, not because I don't have one, it's because I have thousands of examples. So one of the things that we do is we actually ask questions where what is the most important thing for them? Why are they doing this? And not just surface level. Like we want to know about what their plans are when they do retire. Where are they going to be going on that caravan trip? Is this money going to be passed down to their kids? So every time we sell a business, it's actually a really, lack of a better term, it's actually a really wholesome experience where we get to speak with them on real human terms. One in particular that's running through my head right now, and that's just because we were working on it last week, was a vendor of ours where he was planning on moving back to New Zealand. He was a Kiwi, don't hold that against him, because he wanted his kids to be able to have the same upbringing that he did, which was in the bush in New Zealand. Now, he was on the market for, it was close to 10 months. That changed because they had another opportunity. They got them into school and they still really loved it. Although it wasn't the original goal that we set out for, we knew what he was planning on doing with his kids and his family. And that connection that we had, that actually allowed us to get through the sale as well. Again, I could probably come up with 1,000 more for you, but it truly is about finding what that motivation is. It also, a little bit on the other side, that motivation that we find is what helps us when we're speaking to buyers as well, because that's what the buyers want to know. They want to know more than spreadsheets. They want to know more than profitability. They actually want to know about that individual, because a lot of the business is inside that individual's head, if that makes any sense.
And do you know what? Like this is actually, and I talk about this with our team quite a bit. This is how I ended up in specializing in business sale and acquisitions, actually, because in like the beginning, I've been a lawyer for 25 years now, which makes me feel very old. But I did a number of things right in the beginning. But when I got into this space, which was 5 years in, I was like, oh my God, I love these stories. Like it's just it's one of those things like I need meaning out of my day. And it's just so beautiful. Like a business sale, Maddie, is one of those things where there's so much emotion. There's so much going on, isn't there? And I think it's that connection that you guys have as brokers and that we have as lawyers to our clients in the process that really makes the difference for them. What are your thoughts about that from a broker perspective?
Yeah. So the people that we deal with, they're working in these businesses. They're working in them 40, 50 hours a week, and they have done for some with 30 years tops, right? And so I might even shift it a little bit. A lot of the conversations we have when they go to market, got to get out, got to retire, got to move on, all of these sorts of things. And we come to settlement day, and some of the conversations I have with them start to be more what's happening next in your life. And they're like, I don't know what to do now. This was my goal. But what do? I've been literally going to work on Monday every day forever. And that's really great to see that some people that are 60, 70 years old, opening up that retirement for them. It is really fun. It is. And for me personally, I go home to my wife and kids every single night, and I love being able to talk to them about all the people that I've helped. My youngest, every single day I walk in at home, he goes, did you sell any businesses today? Because they love to hear the stories as well. Me personally selling a business every day, that's a great goal. They don't understand that. And like, sometimes I get some pressure from my little 5-year-old. That's what it's, you can succeed in life, but you need to make sure that it's wholesome as well.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. That's why I think we're in the best industry, like in the area from our perspective, from a legal perspective, couldn't be in a more fun area of law. Yeah, low bar, many other areas like really aren't.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually, just one more point before we get into some of the questions that I want to specifically ask you. I actually was listening to someone talk last week, actually, about a study that they'd done on 700 businesses. This was in the US, not in Australia, but it's a very similar sort of story here in Australia. 700 businesses that were sold, right? And they looked at the how the business owners dealt with that progression into retirement post sale or whatever that was post sale. And super interesting that it's a big moment of change for business owners, and that many business owners, they said, like the majority of business owners that struggled post sale struggled because they didn't have a clear plan for what their life involved afterwards and what they'd be doing with their time. So maybe it's something that we should all be thinking about as well. How do we help them sow those seeds early on? But also, it's a warning, isn't it? Because when we get close to sale, we sometimes see little road bumps appear. And sometimes I think that's an example of the emotion that the business owner is dealing with in seeing their business baby that they've nursed all these years suddenly potentially in someone else's hands, and then moving into the new phase. Do you ever have any sort of discussions with your team about how you deal with the emotion of a business seller as they go through this process?
Absolutely. We draw on all of our processes and we base it around that initial sort of inspiration of our vendors going to market, because you can lose sight of it very quickly. They can lose sight of it very quickly. If there's a couple, let's say, not ideal buyers that might come into the mix, there might be a dip in sales, or after years of having a dip in sales, suddenly there's a huge ramp up. So having those conversations throughout is really important for them. When we get to the deal time, though, we have a little bit of an analogy that kind of helps wrap around the entire road to settlement. And what we speak to our vendors about is we say there's actually 3 bottles of champagne we need to use to celebrate until settlement. Once we get a deal negotiated, we quantify it as it's just one of those tiny little bottles of champagne. So we're going to pop it today and we're going to have a little drink, but it's not time yet. Then the next time is where we actually have the good bottle of mum. And that is when we're going to have a contract signed and we're going to have a deposit in place. But we still hold back that sort of mental celebration, because you know better than anyone, if the vendor checks out during that due diligence stage, the chance of the deal completing is harder.
Yeah.
And then we get them to visualize settlement date is when we're on the podium at the Grand Prix. And that's when we have that real giant big bottle. That's when we're actually going to celebrate. We find that sort of thinking allows them to take the wins when they happen without throwing in the entire towel and basically mentally clocking out before the deal's actually done.
Love it. That is such a great, I love that you use like all of that imagery as well. What a great idea. Fantastic. And who doesn't like a small or a larger bottle of champagne?
Of course.
Cool. Okay. So you mentioned one thing, their road to settlement. I want to come back to that in just a moment, because let's just step back first now and go bigger picture, talking about what you guys see as the difference between larger sales and smaller sales here, business sales in the Australian environment. We talked before about there being this sort of different from the perspective of brokers and lawyers. And what does it mean to you guys? What's your perspective in that area?
Yeah, if maybe to answer that, if I just take a backward step for a second, and if you think about the business sale industry in Australia, rules of the industry and how it operates has been designed and built around these really large transactions. And what we noticed is those same rules and ideologies were just simply forced down to the small business sale market, and they don't apply. From a tangible sort of reason to talk about, these bigger companies that are selling for $20 million, they've got teams of people inside them. They've got hundreds of computing systems. They've got multiple accountants. So that system that's been built for the sale process has been built thinking that you can access that. Whereas in the small business market, they don't have 20 accountants on hand. They don't have 400 staff. They don't have all of that there. So if you just look at how a business sale is meant to go, you can be setting it up for failure before it's even started. So we unpacked it completely and we had a look at what is the most important things, what are things that can be talked about, and then really looked at how we can get it all the way through. It's not just about as you're getting an offer on a business. Anyone can get an offer on a business. That's the easy work. The hard work is getting it from that stage through a due diligence process and to get it completed at the end.
Completely agree. I completely agree about the differences between small and large. In fact, we have two very different divisions. We have our small transaction space and our mid-market transaction space, which have completely different personnel, completely different processes for that exact reason. But I completely agree with you. I think it's misunderstood in many instances in the market. And we can we were talking the other day about some education that was coming through in the market, and we could see many of the advisors in the space are talking to big business, whether it's approaches on valuations or whatever, rather than the smaller business space walks to its own tune in many instances. And so let's talk about, you said you've unpacked that process and you started from the ground up. So what does that mean practically? What is it that you do practically then that is different to what would have happened before you'd unpacked the space?
Yeah, I guess if you look at how we operate we're a teams-based brokerage. That's what we coin it as. And what that means is our brokers, they exist in our company purely to put deals together. They are there to speak with buyers, speak with sellers, and complete the sale. They're not marketing, they're not advertising, and more importantly, they're not on the ground trying to constantly get new listings to make sure that they've got a folio that they can sell. Their folio is there for them to focus purely on deals. We've then separated all of the administration into a different department, similar to you, and their skills are creative, they're marketing, advertising, they're IT specialists, finance specialists. And then we have a listings team as well, and they're there to educate people. And some of our vendors, we've been speaking with them for 5+ years. So they're there to talk to them over that time. What do they need to do to get to market? What are the things that they need to consider? And separating them into those different disciplines means that we can be a lot more efficient at what we do. So that's practicality to get to market. And then we also, once they're on the market, understanding what a deal requires to get sold is what we've coined the road to settlement, so to speak.
Your perfect entree into that.
Segue.
I did want to talk about the road to settlement because, by the way, what a catchy title is that? And I believe you guys came up with that. I not just believe, I know you guys came up with that even before ChatGPT became the thing that we all turn to for catchy titles, right?
Yep.
Talk to us about road to settlement, Maddie.
Okay. Road to settlements, it's a bit of a systemized ideology from once we're at terms agreed. Now, what we noticed in business sales that the market showed us that probably only 20 to 30% of deals completed sales. So that's from when they had the offer. And we noticed that a lot of that was because this forced large sale mentality trying to push through into a small business sale, which just meant it didn't work. But we also know as well, in these small business spaces, the cost to the owners of the business is very important. And if they're to go into a lengthy due diligence process that ends up costing them $10, $15, $30, $40,000, some horror stories there on these smaller business sales, that it really becomes a one and done approach. If it doesn't sell in that period, they won't be able to have the emotional energy or financial ability to be able to go again. We've got certain gates that are essential in every single business sale to make sure that the buyers and the sellers collectively are protected. But we then tailor the approach for each individual business. We have a look at the offer. We have a look at the extremely important points of the offer that are the no-go points, the non-negotiables for the buyer. We try and handle as much as possible outside of, I guess, what you would say cost points in that part of the deal. And if we can handle all of that, and if we can have honest conversations with buyers and sellers to get through that point, then what that means when we go to contracts and when we go to complete commercial and legal due diligence, or we're sourcing finance, it's really just a couple little things that need to be ticked off, as opposed to having this complete unknown that everyone's going into. So we actually, because we've got efficiencies, because the brokers are not marketing and advertising constantly, we're able to have more time and energy put into that space.
Love it. Okay. All right. So road to settlement. Love it.
Yes.
How did you come up with the name? I think I remember when you came up with that, right? But anyway, tell me how it makes sense, total sense. How did you come up with it? Do you remember the moment?
I do.
Yeah.
I actually do. And we came up with it because the language, if you go and Google right now, if you go and Google business sales, what do I need to do with business sales? What pops up in front of you is EBITDA, EBITDA. There's all of these industry terminologies that accountants, financiers, a whole bunch of people will use, but that's not who we're speaking with. We're speaking with typical Aussie vendors, typical Aussie buyers. So we needed to come up with language that made sense to everyone. And for us, the road to settlement, to anyone that hears that, they know exactly what we're talking about straight away. Okay, we're standing at the beginning of the yellow brick road. We know we're trying to get to Oz. What do we need to do to walk down that pathway? Another thing that we do that's quite unique is at this stage, we try not to keep the buyer and the seller separated. We actually want to have it as more as a collaboration between the broker, the buyer, the seller, bringing in legals, bringing in finance brokers, bringing in accountants. And then we want to be walking down that road together, because I can guarantee you, as every single sale will have things that pop up once we're at that stage. There will be unknowns, there will be misinterpretations. And if we are walking down that road together, if we're applying for leases, we're speaking with difficult landlords, when they come up, it's a group issue to solve them. And we can all come over it together, as opposed to it being he said, she said. And that collaboration is what allows such large completion rates. It's because it's a team, it's set up as a team, and it's not set up as different teams with different jerseys.
When I said right at the beginning that I feel like we're so aligned in many ways, this is absolutely one of those examples, because we see it as you've got your deal team where we're all pulling together and walking together. But I love your point about the buyer and seller also being that team together that are walking together, because it really does. I love seeing great deals done well and quickly, because we all know speed kills deals when things slow down, and where trust is lost. Trust is a super important factor in this stage, and I think your point.
Everything.
Yeah.
And it's everything.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Deal Room podcast. We hope you're now primed for your next deal with these pointers and have enjoyed these fascinating insights. Now, if you'd like more information about this topic, then head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com, where you'll be able to download a transcript of this episode, as well as access any contact details and any other additional information we referred to in today's podcast. Now, if you'd like to get in contact with our guests today and the services they offer, you can go ahead and check out our show notes for a link right through to them and their details. You can also book in directly with our legals at Aspect Legal if you'd like to soundboard your next steps, discuss a legal question, or find out more how we can assist, whether that's with buying or selling a business, or perhaps somewhere in between. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the Deal Room podcast on your favourite podcast player to get notifications whenever a new episode is out. We'd also love to hear your feedback, so please leave us a review and rating if you're already one of our subscribers, or even if you're listening to this podcast for the very first time. Every review helps our team produce valuable content for you. Well, thanks again for listening in. You've been listening to Joanna Oakey and the Deal Room podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. See you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Thanks for listening to the Deal Room podcast. To find out more about this episode and other episodes in the series, check out the show notes or head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com.au.